Charlie and Jason. Jason, let's start with you. Look, it's a matter of days to go until this window closes, and we are still talking about this Alexander Isak saga. How does it end for you?
Oh, that's the $1 million question, or the £150 million question, isn't it, really? But I'm not sure is the answer. I think I was at Newcastle United last night. I was at St James's Park. I saw the game. And when Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the Newcastle chairman, was by the side of the pitch at the end of the game consoling Eddie Howe, I think that was seen as a public sign that they were hoping to find some sort of resolution to this saga. And obviously there was talks yesterday with Alexander Isak. Unfortunately for Newcastle, it's transpired today that he has dug in even deeper and is more than ever determined to leave. I think there was some hope that maybe there might be an announcement today that he'd agreed to stay a little bit longer, their new contract has been agreed and so on and so forth, but that just hasn't happened. I think the key to this is from the statement last week from Newcastle, so the conditions haven't been met for the sale, and there are two clear conditions. One is to sign the replacements for Alexander Isak and also Callum Wilson, and for the fee they want to be reached as well. And at this point in time, we're very far away from both of those two things happening, and with less than a week to go, it means that it's less and less likely that he will leave. I think even more than the fee, I think it's getting the replacement sorted out, and that just hasn't happened for Newcastle. They have been trying, which shows that they are willing to trade. I know there's been talk of them sort of saying they're not going to sell come what may, but I think there has been an acceptance that if they can get the right sort of conditions, then they would accept the deal, although I think they would still try and insist on £150 million. So to cut a long story short, at the moment, I think he's still staying.
Charlie, Jason says at the moment staying, but with time running out in this window for both Newcastle and Liverpool, and Jason made the point about trying to bring in replacements. Just first of all, your view on how you think this will end. Do you think he will still be a Newcastle United player come, 7 p.m. it is, isn't it, on deadline day next Monday?
I think it's looking more that way, and as Jason said, it's difficult to get one top player at a Premier League club and everything that goes into a big transfer, but to get two real key players in at a club, it's going to be a hell of a task for Newcastle to do that, and obviously we're going to need Liverpool to look to increase their bid. 110, it was silly really that they bid that amount, because obviously it was never going to be accepted. Obviously clubs often start with a low bid, but that was 3 weeks ago. Liverpool aren't willing, it seems, to go anywhere near £150 million, and that's what Newcastle want. So at the moment we're going around in circles, we're not going anywhere, and we've got a player that I think it's not a surprise that Isak's dug in, because I think he had to, particularly the statement he's made not that long ago. So I'm not surprised, having met some of the club officials, that he's decided to refuse to play. But there's going to come a time he's got to realise that it's going to be increasingly unlikely that Liverpool are going to get near Newcastle's valuation. But of course, Newcastle getting two key players in. So the longer we go, this saga continues, the more likely at some stage we're going to see Alexander Isak playing for Newcastle again, but certainly not this weekend.
It will be interesting. Jason, just picking up on those potential replacements for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United, they have tried, haven't they? Liam Delap, João Pedro they went for. Hugo Ekitike, in a way, has actually made it more difficult for Liverpool to get Alexander Isak because he ended up going to Liverpool. Benjamin Sesko they tried to get as well. Are the replacements out there? I mean, some could argue that they've had a bid rejected by Wolves for Jørgen Strand Larsen, and he looked half decent in their game against West Ham United earlier on today. Are they actually out there of the requisite quality to replace someone like Isak?
No, it's a really good question. Obviously, they're still trying to sign Johan Visser as well, and Nicholas Jackson's also on their radar. I think I have a slight problem with the way that Newcastle United have gone about this window. And you look at football clubs and signing of players, and you usually do quite a lot of due diligence before you actually press the button to make a bid. And it just seems to me that time and again, in this window in particular, Newcastle have tried to sign players who they're just not going to get. And João Pedro was always going to go to Chelsea. Liam Delap, they weren't really in the running. I mean, Everton actually made a better fist of it than Newcastle to get Liam Delap. And I just wonder whether, when they come out of this window, they're going to have to really reflect on the fact that have they actually gone about it in the right way? Have they put the presentations together to try and persuade some of these players and some of these agents to actually want to come to them? because it's happened too often that they've been beaten to players. Benjamin Sesko was a really interesting one where at one stage it looked like they were prepared to pay more money than Manchester United, but having done a bit of work on that deal, it was very clear very early on that Manchester United really got into the player, really got into the agent, and that's the way that has to happen in football. I mean, you have to really persuade them first. This deal is one that's going to work for them, that they should come to your club, and then you put the bid in with the club that you want to buy the player from. And I think too many times this summer Newcastle have gone after players who weren't achievable. Jorgen Stein Larsson's a really interesting one because they've gone in very high. You'd think the Wolves paid 24, I think was the release, the clause that was activated in the summer to get him from Celta Vigo. But at the same time, it's so late in the window that Wolves are saying, well, we can't sign replacements ourselves. They're under a huge amount of pressure not to sell. They don't want to sell. So, you know, if you really wanted that player, you should have gone for him a bit earlier. Obviously, they're working their way through a list of players, and that's understandable. But it just seems to me that I think they need to reflect when they come out of this window, have they gone about it the right way? Because it looks to me like they haven't. They always knew Callum Wilson was going. They still haven't signed a replacement for him, and he went at the end of last season.
Charlie, just picking up on Monday night, first of all, because, I mean, it was against the backdrop of this whole Isak saga, and I think that added to what was an incredible atmosphere at St James's Park. But did we see a fan base, a team, a coaching setup that was totally united at Newcastle United on Monday night? And has everything that's going on with Alexander Isak in the background almost galvanised everyone at Newcastle and that club?
Oh, I think that the fans and Eddie Howe and the journey they've been on, they've been together throughout. You know, anyone that goes up there, and I'm sure Jason will agree, you go up there and it really is a really together club. And even though there's been various issues off the pitch in the last 18 months, Eddie Howe's done a brilliant job of keeping everything together, making, you know, some really good signings until this summer. So you've got to give him and the supporters a lot of credit. But equally with the Isak situation, we've seen it before. If he does stay, there'll be a few issues for him, but if and when he does play, if and when he starts playing really well and starts scoring again, certainly short term, the fans will be back on his side. If they're saying that he's giving everything, he comes back and really knuckles down. And we've seen it, whether, you know, Raheem Sterling, Berbatov, been so many players that have, you know, not got the move that they wanted. Of course, then often they go the next season. Then we'd have to see whether, you know, Newcastle managed to give him the money that he wanted in the first place. So yeah, you know, while they're a brilliant support base at Newcastle, all fans are fickle, and if they see a player scoring goals for them, they can soon have him back on their side.
Yeah, so it still seems like Isak wants that move to Liverpool. He wants out, and some might say surprisingly as well. This is a story that's been gathering momentum over the past few days. It's highlighted in The Guardian, and it is about Manchester United midfielder Kobbie Mainoo, who says, look, they're reporting that he's eyeing a move away from Old Trafford after being frozen out by Ruben Amorim. He's been an unused substitute in Manchester United's opening 2 Premier League games so far. Jason, Mainoo wants out at United. Can you blame him?
I was at Fulham on Sunday, and I was quite surprised yet again by what Ruben Amorim said, because he was asked specifically about Kobbie Mainoo and his role within the team, and he said, well, he's up against Bruno Fernandes for a place. And I was quite surprised by that because, well, it's not just Bruno Fernandes who's playing that central midfield. There's Casemiro also, who people at Manchester United have already told me can't really play more than an hour. But Mainoo isn't regarded as a replacement for him, but he's up against Bruno Fernandes. So he's up against the captain, basically trying to get into the team. Amorim's really not sure what to do with him. It's quite clear he doesn't really trust him as a player. He's not quite sure what his best position is. He's tried to play him as a number 10. He tried to play him further forward. You know, he tried to play him as an 8. He tried to play him as a 6, and we're just quite not sure where he fits into the Manchester United team. It's remarkable to think, you know, last year he started the final of the European Championships for England, and now he can't even get on the pitch for a hugely underachieving Manchester United side. So no wonder he's considering his future. I wouldn't blame him for considering his future. He clearly hasn't had any reassurances or any discussions with the manager that has reassured him that he has a future at the club. And it would be really sad for Manchester United if they lose him. He's an academy product. They've got a very proud tradition of having academy players come through and be in the matchday squad. It's going back 100 years or whatever that they've managed to do that. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to have much of a future there. I still would be surprised if he goes this window. It would be top club that would take him, and I think that would be an indictment of Manchester United to let him go. They've got so many other players that want to move on before Monday evening that really Kobbie Mainoo is one they should be trying to hold on to. But I think they really need to give him a little bit more reassurance as to where his future is in the team and what the plan is for him.
Yeah, Charlie, Jason touched on it there. What kind of message do you think it would send if Manchester United were to sanction an exit for Kobbie Mainoo in this window?
Be a huge shame. I mean, we've known for a while that they do need to sell. They can't keep buying players. They need to offload some. But with Mainoo, I think it'd be a real shame. I mean, what was it only 14 months ago we were watching him play in Germany at Euro 2024, and we're really excited by this talent. I think we appreciated that there'd always be some bumps in the road. One of my colleagues insisted that he'd win the Ballon d'Or, if not this year, then next year. That's looking a long way away, isn't it? He's got a lot of work to do. But yeah, he needs to have a manager who's got belief in him. At the moment, that's obviously not the case. But for Mainoo's sake, and for Man United's sake, I really hope he stays. But equally, there's some business to be done. United have got to get some players out, and obviously he's a homegrown player with help financially. But I hope he remains at Old Trafford and things change quite quickly for him.
Jason, just very quickly before we go to a break, it's been a record spend so far by Premier League clubs in this transfer window, and we could yet see even more spent in the last few days. Are you expecting a really frantic end, noting that at the end of the season next summer there's a World Cup, and that's going to be motivation for a lot of players to want to make sure that they've got regular first team football, and that might mean making a move away from their current club?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are a lot of players out there who want to play more regularly, so they'll be looking at their futures while also considering whether or not they're taking too much of a risk by changing club. But even more so in some ways, I think there's a lot of desperate clubs out there. And we've seen from the start of the Premier League that 2 or 3 of these clubs, Wolves, West Ham and so on, really need to get some big business done.